Long before the galaxy learned the meaning of fear, it learned to trust humanity. Among thousands of intelligent species, humans were not the oldest, nor the most advanced, yet they became the ones everyone depended on. Their rise was neither graceful nor peaceful. It was carved through relentless adaptation, brutal survival, and an instinctive understanding of war that no other species could replicate. Wherever chaos spread, human fleets followed. Wherever extinction loomed, human soldiers stood first in line. Over centuries, their reputation transformed into legend. They were not merely warriors. They were the final shield between civilization and annihilation. And when the galaxy's darkest threat emerged, every hope, every prayer, and every surviving world placed its fate into human hands. Humanity's ascent began in desperation. Early space exploration had exposed them to hostile empires, merciless raiders, and cosmic phenomena capable of erasing entire colonies without warning. Survival demanded innovation. Their technologies evolved at astonishing speed. Artificial intelligence coordinated massive fleets. Adaptive weapons learned enemy behavior in real time. Neuralinked command systems allowed fleets to react faster than thought. But it was not technology alone that elevated humanity. It was psychology. Humans studied fear, endurance, and sacrifice with clinical precision. They learned how to fight when exhausted, how to advance when hope collapsed, and how to adapt in battles already lost. Over time, alien civilizations realized something terrifying. Humans did not simply wage war. They endured it. As humanity expanded, conflicts multiplied. Each victory refined their strategies. Each defeat sharpened their resolve. Soon, entire star systems began requesting human protection. Trade routes relied on human escorts. Border worlds paid tribute for human defense. Galactic councils granted them supreme military authority. Slowly, without conquest or coercion, humanity became the axis upon which galactic stability turned. They were the Alliance's spear and shield, its commander and executioner. And when the first signals of an approaching extinction threat reached the inner systems, there was never any question who would lead the defense. The warning came as scattered anomalies. Entire civilizations went silent within days. Stars dimmed inexplicably. Spatial distortions tore through deep space, leaving behind debris fields where thriving systems once stood. Exploration vessels vanished without distress signals. Refugee fleets arrived with fragmented data and tales too horrific to believe. A force was advancing from beyond map space, one that erased entire regions with mechanical precision. When humanity dispatched reconnaissance armadas, they encountered the first remnants: shattered planetary crusts, sterilized atmospheres, and gravitational scars that defied known physics. The galaxy had not merely discovered a new enemy. It had awakened an ancient empire. This empire did not negotiate. It did not threaten. It advanced with mathematical certainty. Its fleets were constructs of living metal and dark energy, capable of absorbing weapon fire and converting it into propulsion. Its capital ships dwarfed moons. Its soldiers were engineered organisms, grown rather than born, capable of surviving vacuum, radiation, and catastrophic trauma. Entire battle groups vanished within seconds of engagement. Even humanity's most advanced weapons barely slowed their progress. Analysts reached the same conclusion across every system: if the Empire reached the galactic core, nothing would survive. In response, a multi-species alliance was forged, unprecedented in scale. Ancient rivals laid down millennia of hatred. Isolationist civilizations emerged from secrecy. Synthetic lifeforms, organic empires, and hive minds unified under a single command. Humanity was appointed supreme military leadership, not by decree, but by consensus. Every species understood the reality. Only humans had faced annihilation repeatedly and survived. The combined fleet assembled near the galactic frontier, a force so vast it altered local gravity. Trillions watched as starforges churned out warships, orbital shipyards operated beyond safe capacity, and planetary economies shifted entirely toward survival. The galaxy held its breath. Human strategists devised a plan that balanced desperation and precision. lure the Empire's primary armada into a controlled engagement zone, isolate its command structures, and annihilate its core with synchronized strikes. The battle would be short, catastrophic, and final. Victory promised survival. Failure promised extinction. Across Allied worlds, populations gathered beneath protective domes and orbital shields, waiting for news. Cultural divisions vanished. Species that had never spoken the same language prayed to the same hope. And at the center of it all, humanity prepared its elite fleet, the most advanced armada ever constructed. These ships were not merely weapons. They were autonomous war networks, capable of independent strategic adaptation. Their crews trained from childhood, conditioned for zero hesitation. Neural uplinks connected every pilot, commander, and drone into a unified consciousness of combat. They were humanity's final answer to extinction. Their deployment signaled absolute commitment. No retreat. No backup. No second attempt. As the Allied armada advanced, the galaxy fell silent. Communications arrays were saturated with final messages, confessions, and farewells. Across billions of worlds, civilizations prepared for either rebirth or obliteration. Some constructed monuments in case no one remained to remember them. Others launched siege ships, carrying genetic archives into deep space. Religious orders proclaimed prophecy fulfilled. Scientists abandoned long-term research, focusing only on immediate survival. Hope became fragile, trembling on the edge of annihilation. When the first Empire fleets emerged from hyperspace, the stars themselves seemed to recoil. Space warped around their arrival. Radiation storms ignited across multiple systems. Their formations stretched across millions of kilometers, blotting out constellations. Against them surged the Alliance, thousands of fleets, millions of warships, and weapon systems powerful enough to fracture planets. Humanity took point, their elite armada forming the spearhead. Command channels synchronized. Time dilation fields stabilized. Every weapon charged. Every soldier prepared for the final stand. For a moment, the galaxy experienced something it had not felt in centuries: unity. Fear gave way to resolve. Species that had once sought each other's destruction now fought side by side. Entire civilizations entrusted their survival to human command. The calculations were precise. The strategies flawless. Probability matrices showed a narrow path to victory. And for the first time since the Empire's emergence, extinction seemed avoidable. As fleets accelerated toward inevitable collision, no one suspected that within humanity's own ranks, a different calculation had already been made. One not about victory, but about survival. One that did not measure outcomes in planetary losses or military defeats, but in the continuation of existence itself. And as the battle began, the galaxy unknowingly approached a moment that would redefine betrayal, sacrifice, and the true meaning of survival. The moment the first volleys were exchanged, space itself seemed to fracture. Entire regions ignited in cascading explosions as energy weapons collided, distorting gravity and time. Human fleets surged forward, carving precise attack corridors through the enemy armada. Coordinated strikes shattered Imperial formations, forcing their massive war constructs into defensive realignments. Across the battlefront, Allied commanders reported unprecedented success. For the first time since the war began, the Empire was being pushed back. Millions of ships moved as a single organism. Human tactical networks synchronized every vector, every burst of fire, every evasive maneuver. The Alliance followed in perfect formation, unleashing barrages powerful enough to crack planetary shields. Enemy vessels fell in waves, their remains scattering across light years. Entire Imperial squadrons vanished under concentrated bombardment. For a brief, impossible moment, victory seemed within reach. Hope surged across the galaxy. Refugee fleets halted their desperate migrations. Planetary shields powered down emergency protocols. Billions watched live transmissions of the advancing armada, witnessing the Empire's retreat. Generations who had known only fear dared to believe extinction could be stopped. Humanity had done what no civilization before them could. They had forced a godlike empire to bleed. Then the betrayal began. Without warning, humanity's elite fleet disengaged from the forward assault. At first, Allied commanders assumed a tactical repositioning. But seconds later, encrypted command channels flooded with corrupted data. Defense grids powering the Alliance's protective shield network shut down simultaneously. Navigational beacons feeding real-time battlefield intelligence went dark. Communication relays fell silent. The entire strategic infrastructure of the Alliance collapsed in a single synchronized strike. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, humanity's warships opened fire, not at the Empire, but at Allied fleets. Precision barrages tore through formations that had trusted human coordination systems for centuries. Command vessels were targeted first, annihilated before emergency countermeasures could activate. Flagships disintegrated in blinding flashes. Entire fleets lost leadership within seconds, plunging into chaos. Confusion paralyzed response. Friend or foe targeting systems failed, overridden by access codes only humanity possessed. Panic spread faster than any weapon. Alliance ships attempted evasive maneuvers, only to find their navigation systems hijacked. Warp drives failed mid-jump, tearing vessels apart across unstable dimensions. Planetary defense platforms turned inward, bombarding their own orbital stations. Automated drone swarms, once humanity's gift to Allied militaries, reversed control and unleashed annihilation at point-blank range. Across the battlefield, disbelief replaced discipline. Thousands of fleets broke formation, desperately attempting to retreat. But there was nowhere to go. Humanity controlled the hyperspace corridors, sealing escape routes with gravitational mines and spatial distortion fields. Entire armadas slammed into artificial singularities, crushed before they could reverse course. In minutes, the Alliance ceased to exist. The Empire barely needed to intervene. Its fleets advanced through the collapsing formations, exterminating survivors with merciless efficiency. Systems that had once required prolonged siege fell in hours. Planetary shields, now compromised, collapsed under sustained bombardment. Orbital defenses malfunctioned, their targeting protocols rewritten by humanity's sabotage. Civilian populations were left exposed, watching their skies burn as extinction descended. Entire civilizations vanished within days. Across the galaxy, emergency transmissions erupted in desperate chaos. Governments demanded explanations. Militaries begged for ceasefires. Religious orders proclaimed divine punishment. Humanity responded with silence. No justification. No explanation. No attempt to clarify. Their fleets withdrew methodically, sealing off core territories and erasing their digital footprints as they vanished into uncharted space. What followed was not war. It was extermination. The Empire surged through defenseless systems, enslaving billions and erasing those who resisted. Ancient capitals were reduced to molten wastelands. Libraries holding millions of years of knowledge burned. Species that had survived cosmic disasters and evolutionary extinction cycles were erased in a single generation. Entire branches of galactic history vanished without record. Within weeks, the galactic order collapsed. Trade routes disintegrated. Communication networks fragmented. Political unions shattered. Worlds that had depended on Alliance protection were left isolated and defenseless. Pirate factions, warlords, and opportunistic regimes rose from the chaos, carving territories from the remains of fallen civilizations. Humanity was declared the greatest trader species in recorded existence. Bounties were issued across every surviving system. Human biology became the most valuable commodity in black markets. Entire fleets were commissioned solely to hunt them down. Survivors who encountered human refugees executed them without hesitation. Children were taught that humanity was extinction incarnate, that trusting them had doomed the galaxy. Yet no retaliation ever reached human space. Their borders vanished. Navigation charts failed. Hyperspace corridors leading toward former human territories collapsed into unstable voids. Reconnaissance fleets attempting pursuit either disappeared or returned with corrupted data and fractured minds. It was as if humanity had erased itself from existence. As the Empire consolidated its conquest, the galaxy descended into an age of terror. Entire populations were relocated into labor colonies. Planetary ecosystems were stripped for raw material. Stars were harvested, destabilized, or extinguished. Survival became a daily negotiation with annihilation. Resistance movements emerged, but without coordination they were crushed. Guerrilla fleets struck isolated targets, only to be annihilated by overwhelming force. Every victory was followed by retaliatory extermination. Slowly, rebellion faded into survival. Survival faded into submission. Generations passed under the shadow of extinction. Children grew up knowing nothing but occupation. Cultures with millennia of tradition reduced their histories to whispered legends. Hope became dangerous. Memory itself became a liability. The galaxy learned to endure its chains in silence. Yet hatred endured. Across countless worlds, monuments were built not to heroes, but to betrayal. Statues depicted humanity as demons, devourers of civilizations. Educational archives recorded their treachery as the defining catastrophe of galactic history. Religious doctrines incorporated humanity's fall as proof of inherent corruption. Entire belief systems reshaped themselves around the conviction that humans were born to betray. And still, no one understood why. Humanity's silence became more terrifying than their betrayal. No demands. No treaties. No attempts to rule. They had not seized power. They had not claimed territory. They had not benefited. They had simply vanished, leaving devastation in their wake. In hidden corners of ruined systems, whispers circulated of something worse. Rumors of classified signals intercepted before the betrayal. Of forbidden research erased from Alliance archives. Of discoveries so catastrophic that even extinction seemed merciful by comparison. Most dismissed these as the ravings of broken survivors. But in the shattered remains of forgotten worlds, in sealed ruins and corrupted databanks, fragments of a deeper truth still waited, buried beneath the ruins of betrayal, guarded by the silence of a species that had condemned itself to universal hatred to spare the galaxy from a fate even darker than annihilation. The galaxy that remained no longer resembled civilization. It was a fractured sprawl of broken systems, silent worlds, and enslaved populations clinging to survival beneath an empire that ruled through absolute dominance. Once thriving trade routes had become graveyards of drifting wreckage. Planetary capitals lay buried beneath layers of radioactive ash. Entire species existed only as fragmented genetic records hidden inside decaying databanks. Where knowledge had once flourished, fear now governed. Every transmission was monitored. Every movement required permission. Even thought became dangerous. Under imperial occupation, survival replaced ambition. Industrial worlds were stripped to their cores, their molten remains converted into raw materials for endless war production. Agricultural systems were re-engineered into nutrient factories, feeding labor colonies where billions toiled under artificial skies. Cultural identity faded as languages were erased, traditions outlawed, and history rewritten to glorify conquest. Across countless planets, statues of fallen heroes were torn down and replaced with towering symbols of submission. Resistance was punished with annihilation. Entire populations were exterminated as warnings to others. The galaxy learned obedience through terror. Amid this collapse, humanity became a whispered curse. Their name invoked rage, grief, and hatred in equal measure. They were blamed for every extinction, every shattered world, every lost future. Entire generations grew up believing humanity had chosen betrayal for power, that they had traded universal trust for dominance. Yet no empire banners bore human symbols. No human fleets enforced occupation. No human governors ruled conquered systems. Their absence became as haunting as their treachery. Across scattered ruins and forgotten systems, remnants of humanity survived in hiding. They abandoned their technology, dismantled their fleets, and erased their presence from navigational charts. Those who remained lived as scavengers, moving through the shadows of collapsed civilizations, trading scraps for survival. Their existence became a constant flight, a quiet endurance against universal hatred. They spoke little, trusted no one, and erased their own history to avoid detection. To survive, they became ghosts. Among these remnants was a lone survivor, a human who drifted between dying worlds, gathering fragments of forgotten knowledge from derelict stations and shattered archives. Survival demanded constant motion. Each system offered only temporary shelter before Imperial patrols arrived. This existence had carved caution into every instinct, silence into every breath. Yet beneath the discipline of survival burned a question that refused to die. Why? Why had humanity betrayed everything it had protected? Why had its greatest fleet condemned trillions to extinction? Why had it vanished instead of ruling the galaxy it had shattered? The survivor had heard countless theories whispered among refugees. Some claimed humanity had been bribed by the Empire. Others believed their leaders had succumbed to madness or ambition. A few insisted humanity had always been secretly aligned with the invaders. None of these explanations satisfied the fragments of memory that haunted the survivors' dreams. Something deeper, something darker, lay buried beneath the silence. The search for answers led into forbidden territory, abandoned Alliance databanks sealed since the betrayal. Most had been stripped by scavengers or destroyed by Imperial cleansing fleets. But occasionally, in the ruins of forgotten systems, fragments survived. Corrupted archives, encrypted war logs, partially erased transmissions. Each discovery hinted at patterns that contradicted the official narrative. Battle telemetry revealed moments of hesitation in human fleets before the betrayal, micro-delays that suggested moral conflict rather than treachery. Strategic simulations showed scenarios where Alliance victory would have triggered cascading anomalies in subspace. Quantum readings recorded impossible energy signatures detected shortly before humanity turned its weapons inward. These fragments did not explain the betrayal. They complicated it. The survivor followed these trails across collapsing sectors, piecing together scattered data into a growing puzzle. Each discovery raised new questions. Each answer deepened unease. The pattern suggested humanity had uncovered something vast, something capable of rewriting known physics. Something deliberately erased from collective memory. Deep within the wreckage of a forgotten research station, the survivor uncovered a sealed core archive, shielded behind encryption algorithms centuries ahead of known technology. Breaking its defenses took weeks of careful intrusion, constant relocation, and near capture by Imperial patrols. When the final barrier collapsed, the data within reshaped everything. The archive contained classified Alliance research into deep space anomalies. Ancient gravitational scars scattered beyond mapped space. Cosmic radiation signatures inconsistent with stellar evolution. Evidence of prior galactic extinctions, each separated by millions of years. Civilizations that had risen, unified, expanded, and then vanished without trace. The same mathematical patterns appeared in each collapse. A recurring cosmic event, cyclical and inevitable. Further logs revealed humanity's discovery, a vast intelligence embedded within the structure of spacetime itself. Not a being confined to form, but a cosmic presence older than galaxies. It did not conquer. It harvested. It consumed the energy of advanced civilizations, feeding on their technological density, their mass, their accumulated complexity. Each galactic cycle ended the same way: total extinction, followed by cosmic silence until life re-emerged. The godlike empire had not been the true enemy. It was merely an instrument, engineered to destabilize civilizations and accelerate collapse. A shepherd guiding entire galaxies towards slaughter. Humanity had discovered the cycle shortly before the final battle. Their scientists calculated the consequences of Alliance victory. The Empire's destruction would have released energy signatures powerful enough to awaken the cosmic entity fully, triggering a galactic-scale feeding event. Trillions would die within moments. Not through war, but through reality itself unraveling. The betrayal had been calculated. Precise. Terrifying. By collapsing the Alliance and allowing the Empire to dominate, humanity had delayed the awakening. Enslavement and occupation slowed technological advancement. Suppression reduced energy output. Galactic stagnation became a shield against extinction. The price was unbearable. But the alternative was total annihilation. Humanity had sacrificed its honor, its legacy, and its existence to buy time. As the survivor absorbed this truth, dread replaced hatred. The galaxy's suffering was no accident. It was a calculated stall against cosmic doom. Every shattered world, every enslaved species, every erased civilization had become part of a desperate attempt to slow an inevitable end. Yet the data also revealed something worse. Recent readings indicated a gradual increase in background quantum resonance. The cosmic presence was stirring. Not fully awake, but no longer dormant. The delay humanity had achieved was collapsing. The cycle was accelerating. The survivor realized the galaxy now stood on borrowed time. Worse still, humanity's silence had left the truth buried. Without understanding the threat, surviving civilizations continued to rebuild, reconnect, and innovate. Each technological advance, each restored network, each revitalized system fed the same cosmic signal humanity had tried to suppress. The galaxy was unknowingly summoning its executioner. The burden of knowledge settled heavily. Revealing the truth could unite the galaxy, but it would also shatter what little stability remained. Concealing it might delay awakening, but at the cost of endless suffering. Humanity had chosen silence. The survivor now stood alone at the crossroads of extinction and despair. In the darkness between dying stars, as Imperial patrols swept across ruined systems, the survivor carried the last fragments of humanity's terrible secret, a truth capable of saving existence, or destroying it far faster than any empire ever could. The truth revealed by the archive did not bring relief. It brought terror. The cosmic presence humanity had uncovered was not a distant threat waiting patiently beyond the stars. It was woven into the very structure of existence. An intelligence dispersed across dimensions, embedded within dark matter filaments and quantum vacuum fields, aware of every fluctuation in energy and consciousness. It did not sleep in the conventional sense. It drifted in a low awareness state, sensing the slow buildup of technological density across galaxies, awakening only when that density crossed a critical threshold. When it stirred fully, it consumed entire civilizations in a process that collapsed stars, unraveled spacetime, and reset galactic evolution. Humanity had named it only in fragments. The Devourer. The Architect of Silence. The end of all cycles. The empire that had ravaged the galaxy was never independent. It was an extension of the entity's will, engineered over cosmic timescales to destabilize civilizations before they could reach the technological threshold required to awaken it prematurely. Its purpose was not conquest, but regulation. Destruction used as restraint. It crushed civilizations to prevent them from growing powerful enough to trigger extinction too soon. Yet humanity's expansion and innovation had surpassed every projection. They had accelerated progress across the Alliance, pushing the galaxy dangerously close to awakening the entity fully. When humanity uncovered this truth, their calculations were merciless. If the Alliance defeated the Empire, the resulting release of exotic energy from destroyed Imperial constructs would surge across subspace, igniting a resonance cascade powerful enough to awaken the entity instantly. The galaxy would die in moments, not through war, but through reality itself collapsing inward. They faced an impossible choice. Allow the Empire to dominate, enslaving trillions and freezing galactic progress, or destroy it, and condemn all existence to immediate annihilation. There was no path that did not lead through unimaginable suffering. Humanity's leaders debated in secrecy, isolated from the Alliance. They simulated billions of futures, each branching into extinction. In every projection where the Empire fell, the cosmic presence awakened. In every scenario where galactic civilization continued advancing, the same end arrived. Only one narrow path delayed the inevitable: collapse. Galactic stagnation. Fear, suppression, and enforced technological regression. To save existence, humanity had to become the villain of history. They prepared their betrayal in absolute silence. Their elite fleet was redesigned not for conquest, but for control. Strategic infiltration programs embedded override codes deep within Allied networks, disguised as defensive redundancies. Human scientists constructed quantum encryption systems capable of erasing entire civilizations' records within seconds. Escape corridors were carved through hyperspace, leading to regions of unstable geometry where no pursuit could survive. Every calculation was cold. Every outcome weighed in lives. On the day of battle, when the Alliance surged toward hope, humanity carried the full knowledge of what victory would unleash. As the Empire reeled beneath coordinated assault, humanity's leaders watched the quantum resonance indicators climb toward irreversible levels. The threshold was seconds away. There was no more time for hesitation. And so, they betrayed everything. They turned their weapons inward, not out of ambition, but to sever the Alliance's technological ascent. They shattered command hierarchies, disabled research infrastructures, and collapsed industrial capacities. They ensured the Empire's conquest would freeze galactic development for generations. Their betrayal slowed the cosmic clock. But even this sacrifice was not enough. The entity did not fully awaken, but it stirred. Subtle distortions rippled through space-time. Dark matter currents shifted. Quantum vacuum fluctuations intensified. Across the universe, faint echoes of awareness spread. The delay humanity had achieved was temporary. Now, centuries later, those signals were growing stronger. The survivor understood the full weight of this realization. Humanity had not saved the galaxy. They had only postponed its execution. And with every passing year, that reprieve was shrinking. Worse still, imperial domination was eroding. Resistance movements, technological rediscovery, and clandestine innovation were slowly reigniting galactic progress. Hidden research enclaves rebuilt ancient knowledge. Rogue engineers reconstructed forbidden technologies. Entire worlds labored in secret to restore what had been lost. Every breakthrough pushed the galaxy closer to the threshold once more. The survivor knew the truth could not remain buried. Yet revealing it would plunge the galaxy into chaos. The Empire's tyranny, brutal as it was, had become a dam holding back extinction. Exposing the truth could trigger rebellion on a scale that would accelerate the awakening beyond any possibility of restraint. Silence preserved delay. Revelation risked annihilation. Humanity had chosen silence. The survivor now stood alone with a decision that could define the fate of existence. Fragments of humanity's final contingency plans remained buried within the archive. In the event that delay failed, they had prepared one last measure, a weapon capable of disrupting the cosmic entity's resonance with reality itself. Not to destroy it, but to sever its awareness, forcing it back into dormancy for another full galactic cycle. The device required impossible energy levels, drawn from synchronized supernovae, and precise activation across multiple dimensions. Its use would devastate entire regions of space, extinguishing thousands of star systems. The price of survival would be staggering. Humanity had never activated it. They had not reached that point before vanishing. But now, the survivor carried the only remaining knowledge of its construction. Across the galaxy, faint tremors began to ripple through space-time. Stars exhibited anomalous behavior. Hyperspace corridors destabilized. Gravitational constants fluctuated by microscopic margins. These were the first signs of awakening. Time was running out. The survivor understood that the galaxy could no longer drift blindly toward extinction. Whether through unity or catastrophe, the truth had to surface. The civilizations of the galaxy deserved the choice humanity had been denied. As Imperial patrols swept through ruined sectors, the survivor transmitted fragments of the archive into hidden resistance networks. Not the full truth. Only enough to plant doubt. Enough to fracture the narrative of betrayal. Enough to awaken curiosity and fear in equal measure. Across distant systems, scattered minds began to question everything they had been taught. Why had humanity vanished instead of ruling? Why had their fleets retreated rather than conquered? Why had they gained nothing from betrayal? The first seeds of truth took root. In the deep void between galaxies, the cosmic presence stirred, its awareness brushing against the boundaries of reality. It sensed complexity rebuilding, energy density rising, consciousness converging. The cycle was resuming. And somewhere among shattered stars and dying worlds, a lone survivor carried the final choice of an entire universe, whether to condemn countless civilizations to destruction in one final act of defiance, or allow extinction to unfold slowly beneath the weight of ignorance. Humanity's sacrifice had bought time. What came next would decide whether that time had been worth the cost.